My name is Russell Heitzman. I'm the manager here at Phoenix Comics. I've worked here for about 5 years. My parents were like, you need to get a summer job. And I'm like, okay. So I was telling Mike this just kind of casually. He's like, oh, well, I need someone to work here. So he just basically hired me there. Like, there was no interview. It was just like, yeah, I know you know the magic stuff, and I think you'd be a good employee, so here you go. And then basically, yeah, he said, if you're going to work here, you know the magic stuff, I want you to know the comic stuff too. And yeah, he pointed me towards Why the Last Man and Watchmen, and those are like 2 great ways to get into comics, and I've now read hundreds of the things. Like, I love them. Yeah, like, I tend to read basically as much as I can of the creators that I like. Like, Frank Miller is a very interesting creator because he, like, throughout his career he's kind of changed a lot of how he thinks. Like, you can watch it over his career. Like, his early work is really different philosophically than his later work. For the most part, I avoid superhero comics. I read mostly, like, Vertigo stuff, which is it's creator-owned. Sometimes I talk to people, I'm like, yeah, like, I don't really care that much about what Wolverine's doing. I want to see someone write a Wolverine comic where he, like, I don't know, where you're telling multiple stories at the same time, or like, there's so many things in comics that you can do that are really, really groundbreaking and interesting that superhero comics, like, especially from Marvel and DC, don't allow their creators to do because they're in it for the product. Whereas a lot of, like, the more independent creators, they can do what they want, because yes, they might be creating a product that they one day want to sell, but a lot of people are doing it for themselves, and that's what's interesting to me. The first month that DC did the New 52 stuff, they outsold Marvel Comics, which was the first month that they've done that since, I think, 1994 or something like that. To me, like, anything that gets more people reading comics is good. Like, I'm happy to see that part of it. The industry itself is actually kind of anti-digital comics. Like, there's a lot of people who, a lot of stores who are like, well, if you do digital comics, how am I going to survive? It's a big question for the industry right now. It's actually one of the most interesting questions facing comics. Another part of the New 52, actually, they've done same-day digital for all of their books in the New 52. Sometimes the art is like you get 2 pages and they all fit together, and it's like, we can't do that on an iPad. So, and you could read it on a computer, but it's still different. The other thing that is actually very important for comics is the habit of coming in every week and getting your comics. Like, we as a store want you to come in every week, talk to us, get some suggestions, like, talk about the books you've read. Like, we want that as a store. We want to build that. And that's something that the comic industry, that's something you can't get with digital. You can't get the social aspect or the actually making the pilgrimage or the trip every week to go to the comic store. Like, people are paying for that privilege too. So I don't think you can discount that as being important in print, because I think it actually might be one of the more important pieces of the whole industry.
And I called her out on it, and she's like, well, it's not cute, so I never feel like using it because it's not cute. It's like, oh my god. Yeah, so
people are gravitating towards what I consider to be the better books. Promethea is kind of a deconstruction of superhero books. It asks questions like, why do people love superheroes? Why does literature and comics and writing, why do these things why are they so important for our consciousness? Comics is so good at saying one thing on the surface and then having lots of things in the background or beneath the surface that you can dig into, and yeah, that's what really appeals to me about Promethea. And the art is really, really good too. Like any good art, like, comics do offer you the ability to connect with other people through something other than just face-to-face. Or if you give me one thing to pick, that's probably the one. Comic books are becoming more mainstream in the sense that people like the New York Times, and there's a bestseller graphic novel list now. Like, I know that for the New 52, like we were talking about, Entertainment Weekly did a piece on it. So like that part of it too, like it all feeds into a new generation of creators writing for a new generation of readers. And I don't know, I would like to think that readers are a little more savvy about the medium now than they were even 10 years ago. More understanding of the medium does come from more people making books that are not superhero books and are more taking more risks, basically. And I think that the medium is really moving towards a direction where there are people who are taking more risks and writing from a more artistic kind of personal place.